Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly, where we cover all things local in Santa Clarita Valley every Saturday morning at 9 on KQRU 107.9. Join hosts Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty as they uncover the latest news, events, sports highlights, and more, keeping you connected and engaged with what matters most in our hometown.
Welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly with Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty. I'm Sage. He's Tim. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We are also on YouTube and Instagram, and you can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. If you'd like to support our show and santaclaritastar.com, we have provided affiliate links to purchase a Tyler Glasnow bobblehead. Of course, Glasnow is a Santa Clarita native who currently plays for the Dodgers. Purchase products using our affiliate links. Our show and website will get a portion of the proceeds at no additional cost to you. The links can be found under the YouTube video of the show as well as our website, santaclaritastar.com. So President Trump held his first State of the Union address since taking office for his second term, and Congressman George Whitesides and California's two senators brought guests to send messages to Trump about mass firings of federal workers and relief needed after the recent fires in LA County. On the day of Trump's State of the Union, Assemblywoman Pilar Schiavo held a press conference in Sacramento to protest any cuts from Social Security, Medicare, and Medi-Cal. And in local sports, the Canyon boys basketball team won the first CIF Southern Section championship in school history and advanced to the CIF state tournament. The Hart boys soccer team faced El Camino Real in the first round of the CIF Southern California regional playoffs. And in Major League Baseball, the Dodgers won 4 games in a row in spring training, and pitcher Roki Sasaki made his debut in an impressive outing against the Cincinnati Reds. In NHL, the Kings have lost 4 games in a row, 3 on the road, and returned home for a double dip against the St. Louis Blues. So President Trump's first State of the Union address was March 4th, and Democrats had different ways to protest Donald Trump. Democratic men in Congress wore blue and yellow ties in solidarity with Ukraine. Democratic women wore bright pink. Congressman George Whitesides, who represents Santa Clarita Valley, not only wore a blue and yellow striped tie, but he invited as his guest Jasmine Dominguez from Lancaster, who was recently laid off from the Forest Service as a part of the Trump administration's firing of thousands of federal workers. Congressman Whitesides spoke to Dominguez just before the State of the Union.
Hi everybody, Congressman George Whitesides here, and I'm so honored tonight to welcome Jasmine Dominguez to our office here in Washington, D.C. Jasmine flew across the country to be my guest for the State of the Union address tonight. Jasmine has a unique story. She has worked super hard to save our communities during the recent fires, the Hughes fire, the Hearst fire, and other fires, and she was unjustly and illegally terminated under these crazy DOJ terminations that are sweeping across government, hurting our local communities, hurting our readiness to fight fires, and just hurting folks throughout our communities. So Jasmine, thank you for coming across the country to share your story, and just wanted to give you the opportunity to say anything you wanted to say to folks out there.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited to be here, to see, for them to see a face. Yeah, for them to see a face to the story and to the people that were terminated, and just to support,
What made you inspired about joining the Forest Service?
I really wanted to be a part of the fire operations, and I love supporting the future of our forests and of our community. So I knew I always wanted to be part of the environmental part of it, and somehow I got into fire, and I truly love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jasmine is from Lancaster, and you were involved at Fox Field in our home for a while before you came to our first job. Or our current job. Yeah.
I was at Fox for 5 seasons, and then started the fire JS specialist. I did 6 months, worked the Eaton fire, the Hughes fire, the Hearst fire, and the Bridge fire. And it's funny that I mentioned the bridge because that was only my first month in. I worked the bridge fire.
Yeah.
So just work. That's what it is. It's just you're learning on the job as well.
What was your role during those fires?
The fire GIS specialist. Yeah. So I did
And what does GIS stand for?
geographic information systems.
Yeah.
So making the maps for all the different, updating all the different informations that operations going on, and really the public can see it. Also the firefighters and anybody crew, anybody needs information on different areas that pertaining to the fire.
So I just want to underline for folks who are out there, basically your job was to help show where the fire was, both for the people who are the operational leaders of the fire service, as well as for the public.
Yeah.
That is obviously an incredibly important role, to tell people where the fire is and where it might be going. And so 2 weeks after Jasmine was pulling 12 to 18-hour days working to save our community, she was terminated. I think that's wrong. I think that is super dumb, and we're here because we want to get this reversed. Jasmine just wants to help, and so many of these folks, whether they're cancer researchers, whether they're working at the Social Security offices, wherever they are, they just want to help. And the idea that we would just cut these folks with no thought is why we believe this is unjust and hurting our community. So, Jasmine, thank you so much for being here. This is my first State of the Union in person as well, so we're going to go through this together, and we honor you by coming tonight. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
California's 2 senators invited 2 firefighters as their guests, sending a message to President Trump not to forget about the state after the devastating fires in Los Angeles County. Senator Alex Padilla brought Frank Lima, a longtime Los Angeles City fire captain and General Secretary Treasurer of the International Association of Firefighters. Senator Padilla and Captain Lima spoke just before the State of the Union.
Hi, everybody. I'm Senator Alex Padilla.
I'm Frank Lima, captain with the Los Angeles Fire Department.
And while we're waiting to see what Donald Trump has to say tonight about his priorities for the country, we're here together to make it clear that President Trump, do not forget about Los Angeles, do not forget about firefighters and other first responders who are counting on federal assistance to rebuild and recover from the devastating fires in January.
Los Angeles firefighters, all AFF firefighters, and Senator Padilla has always had our backs. The message tonight is to make sure that lawmakers have our backs and hire more firefighters.
So we're going to hear a lot from President Trump tonight. No doubt there will be a lot of lies and misinformation. Is he going to continue to brag about cuts to the federal government and federal employees? Because we know what that's about. He's trying to find money to fund tax breaks for billionaires. Or is he going to turn around and actually address the issues that American families really care about?
Senator Adam Schiff brought Captain Vincent Culliver, a 25-year federal firefighter for the Vandenberg Space Force Base Fire Department and president of the Union of the International Association of Firefighters at the base. Senator Schiff and Captain Culliver also spoke before the State of the Union.
So I'm really proud to have Captain Culliver as my guest, Vincent Culliver, for the State of the Union tonight. Captain, thank you so much for joining us. Really grateful for your long years of service, for all you've done to help protect my constituents. And I know you were involved in fighting that terrible Eaton fire in the Altadena part of our state. So thank you, and really proud to have you as my guest this year.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the extension for me to be here and to be able to see the state of address, not from my TV from home or the fire station, but actually being here. My years in the fire service have been long, 25 years this October, and going to the Eaton fire was no different than any year. We get sent to a lot of fires down south. We spent 12 days on the Eaton fire, protecting homes, doing structure defense, house to house. Fortunately, we watched some homes burn, and then we saved quite a bit. So it was an honor to serve with the Glendale and every other fire department, Pasadena, and other fire departments that were there.
Well, we're so grateful to you. I know I speak on behalf of all my California constituents, but most particularly my constituents in Altadena and in the Palisades, in saying we're grateful for your service and so delighted that you could be here tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Donald Trump's speech was a raucous affair, with Democrats heckling him and holding up signs with messages of protest. Congressman Al Green of Texas confronted Trump at one point and was escorted from the floor by the sergeant at arms by order of the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. So how has President Trump's second term been so far? Think of a wrecking ball into the heart of America, crushing norms, slashing federal jobs, alienating allies, and leaving chaos in its wake. He's unleashed a flood of deep cuts, devastating farmers with lost aid, laying off veterans from federal jobs, and gutting protections for working families, all while aligning himself with dictators and dodging courts. It's Trump unbound, a MAGA steamroller running over the little guys and gals and daring democracy to fight back. During Trump's speech, the mood in Washington reflected this reality. President Trump has promised not to touch Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. The Republican budget will result in billions of dollars in cuts to Medicaid. The budget plan requires that the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, to identify at least $880 billion in mandatory spending cuts over the next decade. That number is so large that Republicans would have to significantly reduce Medicaid spending to meet it. Medi-Cal gets a significant amount of its funding through Medicare. Additionally, Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, has been significantly reducing the federal workforce in the Social Security Administration. Martin O'Malley, the former commissioner of the SSA under President Biden, warned that the firings could lead to what he called the collapse of the Social Security system, quote, within the next 30 to 90 days, end quote. So Assemblywoman Pilar Schiavo held a press conference in Sacramento on the day of Trump's State of the Union address to advocate for the protection of Social Security, Medicare, and Medi-Cal.
So we are here today. I want to thank everybody for being here today. My name is Pilar Schiavo. I'm Assemblywoman from District 40, representing the North San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, and Castaic. It's a great area. Thank you. So I want to thank everyone so much for being here today to call on the federal government to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, or what we call Medi-Cal here in California. And we know that if cuts are made to these vital programs that millions of people in our state depend on, that our taxpayers and tax dollars go to pay for, that it will be devastating to communities across California. As a former nurse advocate, as the daughter of a veteran and chair of the Military and Veteran Affairs Committee, I am deeply aware of how much damage these cuts would cause and the deep impacts they would have on our families. You'll hear stories today from speakers who can talk about how it can impact them and how it will impact them, but I want to lift up a couple points. And I want to take a point of personal privilege to my dad, who's a Vietnam veteran, passed away yesterday. And he would want nothing more than for me to be here today to fight for Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, which he relied on. And so I might get a little emotional today, but we are here to fight in honor of my dad and every other veteran who is going to be hurt by these cuts that are proposed by the federal government, by Congress, and the federal administration. One example is Ridgecrest Regional Hospital, which serves a remote community that is surrounding the Naval Air Weapons Station in China Lake. This is a weapons station that is vital to our national security. And the residents there rely on Ridgecrest Hospital. The people who work at that naval base rely on Ridgecrest Hospital. Their families, their scientists and engineers who are doing some of the most amazing work on our defense to keep our country safe. And if there's not a hospital in their community to take care of them and their families, they will not be able to work there. This is very much an issue that's critical to national defense and our security. And we know that Ridgecrest must continue but they heavily rely, a third of their hospital's patients rely on Medi-Cal. And so if Medicaid cuts go through and limit the residents' crucial access to health care, it could compromise their ability to sustain themselves. And the nearest hospital with a trauma center is 2 hours away, would be the backup. So in seconds, when those who need medical care can't drive 2 hours, that's not an option. And these cuts are not an option for our communities. Particularly, eliminating Medi-Cal would disproportionately harm veterans. 1 in 4 veterans experience mental health conditions, and Medi-Cal is often what they rely on when they can't have access to a VA. How dare the federal government even consider these cuts? Cuts to people who have risked their lives for our country and who rely on these to stay alive. My dad fought cancer 3 times because of his exposure to Agent Orange. And the treatment that he received was so harsh that it damaged his heart and his lungs. And so at the end of his life, he was really struggling. And he fortunately had the VA, which also is under attack right now. But he also relied on Medicare. He relied on Medicare for his hearing aids so he could hear us tell him he loved him. And thank you. And we know that there are many other people telling their loved ones that they love them, who rely on Medicare, who rely on Medi-Cal, and who rely on Social Security to put food on the table and stay alive. And so this is why I've introduced Joint Resolution 3, calling on Congress and the federal administration to protect Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security for our communities, for all of the people here today, for all of the people that we love in our families, for all of the people in our communities who are relying on this for their health care. This is why we're here today, to make sure that we protect that. And to talk more about how veterans are going to be impacted.
You're listening to KQRU 107.9 FM in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Saturday mornings at 9 and on YouTube, Instagram, wherever you listen to podcasts. So, Tim, can you talk to us about local sports?
Okay, yeah. So it's a busy time in high school sports right now. We have 2 teams who are doing very well in the CIF tournament. Start with the Canyon basketball team, the Canyon boys basketball team. They needed 3 overtimes to beat St. Bonaventure in the championship game of the CIF Southern Section Division 2A playoffs at Azusa Pacific University. Noah Madrigal scored only 10 points in the game, but his 3-pointer buzzer beater at the end of the 3rd overtime gave Canyon an 89-86 win over St. Bonaventure. While it was the first CIF Southern Section championship for the Canyon boys team, it was the 3rd time in a row St. Bonaventure lost in the championship game of the Southern Section playoffs. Canyon took a 38-31 lead at halftime, but St. Bonaventure rallied in the second half and tied the score 65-65 at the end of regulation. Each team scored 8 points in the first overtime to tie the score at 73-73 and scored 8 points apiece in the second overtime to tie the score again 80-80. Madrigal broke the 86-86 tie in the final seconds of the 3rd overtime with a 3-pointer. Isaac Ulico led Canyon with 20 points, and Eric Kubel scored 20. Sean Hernandez scored 15 points and had 10 rebounds, giving him a double-double in the game. With the win, Canyon advanced to the CIF state playoffs in Division 2 and played St. Augustine from San Diego in the first round. He had lost to St. Augustine 60-40 and was eliminated from the state playoffs here. St. Augustine is the champion of the San Diego Southern Section Division 1. They won the Division 1 playoffs and were able to advance to the state playoffs through there. Canyon was the 3rd place team from the Foothill League and finished with a 21-9 record. In soccer, the Hart boys soccer team advanced in the CIF Southern Section playoffs in the Southern California Regional. The Hart boys soccer team knocked out El Camino Real from Woodland Hills in a shootout in the first round of the CIF Southern California Regional Tournament. Hart and El Camino Real played to a scoreless tie in regulation. In the shootout, Hart won 4-2 and advanced to the semifinals to face a familiar foe. Hart will play Loyola, who eliminated the Hawks in the semifinals of the CIF Southern Section Open Division playoffs. Loyola is 21-1-4 and beat Birmingham in the first round of the Southern California Regional playoffs. Loyola won in a shootout 3-2 after the two teams played to a 2-2 draw in regulation. We're going to move on to baseball and let Sage take over to talk about the Dodgers in spring training.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Everybody's been looking forward to baseball season and the return of the Dodgers. So the Dodgers won 4 games in a row in spring training. Not that it means much, but newcomer Roki Sasaki from Japan made his debut for the Dodgers and made a memorable first impression. He struck out 5 in 3 innings, and his fastball was consistently in the high 90s. He topped out at 99.7 miles per hour at one point. Sasaki came in relief in a game against the Cincinnati Reds. Yoshinobu Yamamoto started the game and went 4 innings, giving up 2 runs on 4 hits and striking out 3. Sasaki pitched the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings. He didn't give up a run, gave up 2 hits, and walked 1. The Dodgers won the game 4-2. Mookie Betts hit a solo home run in the 3rd inning for the Dodgers. The Dodgers opened the regular season against the Chicago Cubs in Japan on 18th. So, Tim, I have some questions about the Dodgers. So how did Sasaki's debut performance exceed expectations?
So everybody's been looking forward to seeing Sasaki pitch. They know, they've seen him pitch in Japan. They know how well he's done in Japan, and he's been incredible in the Japan leagues. Transitioning into the major leagues is always a little tricky. It takes Japanese pitchers a little time to get comfortable in the new league. But it didn't look like Sasaki had any problems transitioning. Aside from having his fastball being in the high 90s almost consistently. I mean, he was like throwing 99 miles an hour for a whole inning. That's unheard of, especially in spring training. Most pitchers are usually working their way up and trying to build up arm strength and working on new pitches and doing different things. But Sasaki came in, he was throwing 99 miles an hour right off the bat, and the Reds, he pitched against the Reds, and the Reds really didn't have much of a chance against him. So, not only was he, throwing in the high 90s, consistently around 99 miles an hour, he also, struck out 5 batters in 3 innings. So, it was more than I think the Dodgers expected. It was more than baseball was expecting out of him, especially in his first outing for the Dodgers.
All right. So let's talk about the NFL. So for a time, it looked like Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford might not return to the team. The team gave Stafford's agent permission to seek a trade partner and move on from the Rams. Instead, the Rams restructured Stafford's contract and he agreed to stay with the team. Rams coach Sean McVay said he was happy Stafford is coming back and happy that a deal was reached. So the Rams and Stafford agreed to a contract extension when he was traded to the team from the Detroit Lions in 2022. He has 2 years left on that contract extension with $4 million guaranteed in 2025. Terms of the restructured agreement were not disclosed. While Stafford's future with the Rams is set, Cups is in doubt. The all-pro wide receiver has been the subject of trade rumors in the offseason, and the Rams are listening to offers. McVay said it was one of the most challenging decisions he's had to make in his 9 years as coach of the Rams. It still doesn't mean that you don't still see a lot of amazing things that he can contribute. It's about the big picture, but it was hard. It was really hard. I think there's a lot of love. I think he understands how much he's meant to me. I do think that in spite of a uniquely challenging situation, I know that the relationship and the bond that we have is strong enough to be able to sustain. I think over time, there's a lot of appreciation when you look back on those things. It's been really challenging, McVay said. So let's talk about the National Hockey League, the NHL. The Kings are on a 4-game losing streak and are struggling to score goals. They lost 3 games in a row on the road, including a lackluster game against the Chicago Blackhawks. Anze Kopitar scored the lone goal in a 5-1 loss against the Blackhawks. His goal tied the score 1-1 in the first period, but the Blackhawks scored 2 goals in the second period and 2 more in the third period to blow the game open. Kings coach Jim Hiller talked about how his team played against the Blackhawks.
What maybe changed between the way you played for that first period and coming out for the second?
I don't know. It's a great question. It's a great question. You'd like to know, right? Because now falling behind, the urgency was there in the third. So I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? We had urgency in the first, we had urgency in the third, and we just played in the second.
The Kings has scored only 6 goals in 4 games and only 2 goals in the past 2 games. They will play the Blues 2 more times in back-to-back games at Crypto.com Arena. After that, the Kings are on the road for a game against the Vegas Golden Knights. So, Tim, how are the prospects looking for the Kings?
Well, the prospects. Yeah, they're going through a rough patch right now, and I'm not sure exactly why. When they go on the road, for whatever reason, they turn into a different team on the road. At home, they're one of the best teams in the NHL when they're playing at home, but they go on the road and they suddenly have problems. And I'm not sure exactly why. Just who knows why. I don't know if there's any one reason to pinpoint it on or if it's, just this team is just not a good road team. But the prospects are a little better. They have a couple games at home. They have this one road game in Vegas, and Vegas is in first place in the Pacific Division right now. So they're a good team. It's going to be a tough game for them on the road, especially. But these 2 games against the Blues, they should be games that the Kings can win. They'll be a little more competitive. Like I said, they're a much more comfortable team, a much more confident team at home. So it's probably good they have a couple back-to-home games and a couple games against a team that they should be able to beat.
All right. Thank you, Tim. So that's our show. Tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM at 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a comment, and be sure to subscribe to Santa Clarita Weekly online. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.